Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode of the HR and Payroll 2.0 podcast. I'm Pete Tiliakis, and as you can see, we're here live at Zoho Day 26, a real privilege, and I'm exceptionally thrilled to have my good friend and one of my peer analysts, Holger Mueller from Constellation Research. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Yeah, it's long overdue, man. We should have done this way sooner, but yeah, look, man, we're at Zoho Day. This is a real privilege. I've been working, I think I've been in and around the Zoho ecosphere, as you call it, maybe for about 5 years, but I know you've been covering them for much, much longer. And I thought about this morning, 30 years, right? They're 30 years old.
Right.
They're a millennial.
Yeah, exactly.
Zoho is a millennial.
Yeah.
But you've watched them kind of grow up. What are your thoughts from this week and what we heard, just around AI, the OS stack, all that sort of thing?
Right. No, I think it's, Zoho is admirable in a certain way because they're the incarnation of horizontally integrated and vertically integrated, right?
Yeah.
So horizontally integrated, right? Everybody has built an ERP suite, right? They launched ERP here at the conference, right? So it was overdue kind of like, but they also have their own text processor, their own spreadsheet, their own presentation software, their own collaboration software. Right?
Yeah.
So they made it wider, right? It's basically think of your ERP package plus Microsoft Office or G Suite. But then they also go vertical in a sense, right? I mean,
exactly.
They have their own browser. Advar or something is a WhatsApp competitor on the consumer side, right? They showed us their first rack. They're building their own hardware. They run their own cloud. They have a big PaaS offering with managed engine, which for the first time they're bringing here. So it's kind of like coming more together. So they're like first do-it-yourself in the aspect, right? So that's the main differentiator, I think, for Zoho. And they do this at an amazing price, right? Yep. So at every customer you talk to, say, price is better. And the thing that we both love is they do payroll. Right? The ERP suite, right?
A lot of people don't know that.
From the finance side, it's because it's pretty new, right?
Yeah.
Also largely spurred by the need of paying Zoho employees around the world.
Right.
But that's fine, right? Drink your own champagne, as we say. So
Yeah, Zoho people too. Like I think it was 3 years ago. I don't know what the numbers are now, but 3 years ago they had over 15,000 customers using that out of the 1 million customers that they have, which is an impressive number as it is, right? I mean, you think about something like ADP has 1 million customers.
Right.
Zoho, much younger, half the age.
Right.
Equal number of customers, and a very robust system. It's interesting. I was in the elevator with a gentleman not from this conference, and he noticed my badge, and he asked me what Zoho was, and I kind of paused for a moment because I was like, man, I told him, I said, they're an ERP, I guess is the easiest way to explain it to you, but I said there's actually so much more to what they offer, and it is impressive. I mean, candidly, everyone probably knows Zoho is a sponsor of our show, keeps us ad free. We love that. We're so proud of that. But I don't know if people know this, but I'm an independent analyst, and I have 3 business entities, and I use Zoho to actually run all of those entities. Good. And I have to agree with you. There's so much value in what they offer for the capability, and again, the price. It's just it's interesting. And I think
entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think
what's the Greek analogy? Come on, you have a Greek background.
A Greek analogy? Yeah, I don't know.
You have the dog food thing, right? What's the Greek thing?
Believe it or not, we have good wine in Greece.
Yeah, making your own spinakopeika or something.
You need your own baklava.
Your own baklava. Yeah. Make and eat your own baklava.
Yeah, but I mean, I think what's interesting is like, one of the problems I think a lot of these mid-market solutions have is that they matriculate their customers after they mature, whereas it seems to me like Zoho tends to hang on to those customers and mature with them. Much differently.
It's a business model. Often sign up for free, convert them to paying customers, keep them, have them renew, right? So we saw that the strategy officer who showed that. Surprised the trick of Zoho, right?
Exactly.
Freemium model to paid model to keep the customer happy. Right?
Yeah.
And then there's so much upsell, right? I mean,
totally.
Think about the upsell possibilities.
Yeah, like you said, you can go wider.
If you set on your enterprise automation, well, how about getting a cheaper office package? Mail is part of it too, right?
Yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts on, I mean, you and I spend a lot of time in the HR world, and I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about, you get around a lot of big tech that I don't get around. I want to share on that as well. But one of the things that I think is very, very differentiated about Zoho is their culture and the way that they've approached treating society, treating their people, treating their customers, more importantly. Do you think that has, what are your thoughts on that, like from a cultural perspective, how that becomes indicative in the technology that they put out?
Yeah, I think it's a unique culture, right? When you put employees first, right?
Yeah.
When you build everything internally with employees, you don't hire people from the outside, you don't acquire, everything's organic, right? You know what matters to an employee is that, hey, my employer has my back. The skills need to change, but I get trained, I'm relevant, I'm part of the overall team, no matter what happens, right? And if you look since I know Zoho, the executive team has not changed.
No, it hasn't, yeah. A lot of them have grown up
to a certain point, right, from the outside in, but as long as they speak to us, they get free outside in, right? But we have a very strong culture. I spoke to a recent person who just joined, and said, I always admired the culture from the outside. And it's really like this. And he's there since 2.5 months, 3 months or something.
Yeah. It is interesting. And I think that, one of the things I like about what they do is, we talked about the talent crunch that's going on, that's continuing to go on, right? The skills gap. I mean, Zoho has really created their own talent, right? Their own Zoho University and now all the investments that they make in talent. I think it is really, 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 really fascinating.
And it helps to be headquartered in India, right? In the secondary hub. They own this whole secondary hub. Location strategy, right? I think 2 years ago we were in McAllen, Texas, right?
Right, yeah.
To look up
SpaceX.
Maps where that is.
Yeah, we got to go to SpaceX,
which was cool. Right? It was from just a bus right away.
Yeah.
But the second center and having the India talent, right? I mean, over 2 million information science graduates every year coming in the market, right? So it's not hard to hire developers, right?
Absolutely.
Technology.
Absolutely.
And then they have a great reputation in India in general, right? They have a WhatsApp killer. Like right, which was out of the roof of being a locally sourced, no data goes to other places and so on.
Yeah.
So very interesting and great reputation. And where I see them the most is at airports.
Exactly.
Totally punching above their weight, right? The last thing, we were both in Europe
right
last
above
week.
Security.
Like I'm flying back with the United Airline, whatever. And the third advertisement on the movie screen is Zoho. How do they do this? They're a relatively small company. They're everywhere.
Yeah, I've been through a few airports. I think here, but definitely in Austin. But I've been through a few airports where I see Zoho sort of papered over the security section of TSA, and I think that's very interesting because very on brand because they are very secure platform, the way they go about their data and all that. So I really like that. But look, I want to talk SaaS. I want to talk AI. So look, we talked. This was a key highlight yesterday about there's so much spin going on and spin out, I guess, and anxiety going on in the media around SaaS is dead, right? No more SaaS. We've got companies like, Klarna has ripped everything out and using AI, which I think is absolute insanity. You wonder why.
They've come back.
They've come back. Oh, yeah, they reeled that back. Yeah, they reeled that back real quick. I think you'll figure that out.
The revolutionary has become more mainstream.
But seriously, cut through the nonsense here. What is SaaS dead? Are we talking about the future where we're just purely going to be talking to AI? I mean, what are we looking at?
Even the guy who started it was Satya Nadella, right? Agents are the end of SaaS, right? In the second explainer, there's a video around since 2 weeks or something, like 3 minutes long, where he says, it's going to happen. And by the way, our Dynamics revenue got a massive boost, right? So the way how I see this panning out is last year was the battle for the advanced companies for where do I put my data, right? Mm-hmm. And many companies still have to figure out in 2026 where to put the data, but the advanced companies, this year it's all about, I have my data in one place. How do I build agentic applications? Mm-hmm. Right? Now, this is going to take some investment from SaaS away because for the first time you can have an agent call multiple SaaS backend properties.
Right.
Before was 2 UIs for the agent, so massive. My research area, enterprise acceleration, right? If you build the right agent, magic things happen in your enterprise, right? Because you hide all the backend systems and very intuitive, right? We can talk faster than we can type, right? Why do we use mouse clicks and have to figure out UIs if I can talk, right? That's the real revolution right now. Yeah. Then behind the scenes, something agentic. What will be the SaaS comeback? In my prediction, for it's always a little aggressive, so we'll see if it's 2 years later, is all of a sudden people realize, oh my God, my backend systems don't scale, right? Let's take, for example, right? I have 2,000 call center agents. Everything is humming nicely, right? Never 2,000 are there. They're sick on vacation, so maybe 1,800, right? Now I gave everybody of those 2,000, 1,800 agents 4 software agents. My backend system doesn't scale.
Yeah.
So I have to renovate, modernize, make my backend system scale. And guess where does this backend system run? It's not being magically written by AI. No, it's a SaaS application.
Right.
So I predict the SaaS revenue is going to bump up next year on the massive companies because I realized I need to modernize my infrastructure.
Right.
In my applications who have to scale to the AI era.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, what happens if we have companies who aren't even on the cloud yet. How are they going to make this jump from, I was walking down the hallway at one of the HCM events and I was talking to, I want to say it was at Cornerstone. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to one of the talent, learning development leader, an executive. And I asked her, what are you using? What are you doing? And, she told me. And then, I asked her about, what's your kind of roadmap? What are you guys thinking about for the year? And she told me. And then I said, what do you use for core HR? And she smiled, and I already knew the answer, right? And I won't say the name, but it was an on-prem solution. On-prem solution we all know of. And I said, I kind of looked at her, and it was almost like we spoke without speaking, that she knew they weren't doing any of that. because of the fact that they're not even on a cloud platform. Who knows if it's, if they're where or what they're doing otherwise outside of just HR. But how are these companies how are they going to make this jump when we haven't even, if SaaS is dead and you're not even on a SaaS solution, how do you do it?
No,
what do you do?
You cannot do it.
You can't.
Because let's say you do everything on premise, you can probably get away, build your agents. And then you run to the solution that you need a 4 times bigger system in the backend. How are you going to do that?
Yeah. And
it's going to come to a screeching halt. Right? Then you have to say, we have to upgrade our backend ERP system, which is a 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 to even longer effort, right? In the meantime, you cannot scale for AI.
Right.
So your competition is going to do not so nice things to you, right? So if you're not running in the cloud and still have concerns about the cloud, you're definitely doing something.
Yeah, right.
So AI is the main mover from a cloud perspective, right? Because the cloud offers you elasticity, right? Elasticity, which is the main design point. And we've been talking for the longest time, for all of us, of the elasticity on the architecture side, which is, of course, behind that. But it's also elasticity on the commercial side, which you need to negotiate, right? So you only pay for what you use, right? And that's the mental switch which companies have to do, people have to do, especially also in the agent area. Before I start an agent, just for having an agent, I have to figure out what does it cost me to run the agent.
Yeah.
So I like this way, like the original pricing from Salesforce. Now everybody's got consumption, which is more complicated, right? $2 to get an agent, right?
Yeah.
So for trying it, fine, I can start 100 agents and pay for it, right? To figure out how it works for my learning, right? But I have to think inherently in enterprise for the value. Does this agent create more than $2 of value?
Right.
Otherwise, I shouldn't build it.
It's
right?
not worth
There's
it.
other technology for that, or maybe it cannot be automated, right?
Yeah.
Maybe agents are the wrong solution. Agents are not the solution for everything.
They're not.
Can you believe it? You heard it here first, right?
Everyone wants an agent. Everyone wants an agent.
You heard it here first. Agents
I want one at home.
Everything.
I want one at home.
I need so many agents, man.
Yeah, I know. So, but just thinking about that, right? I mean, like if we think about SaaS, I mean, what do you think company, like one of the things I notice about ERP now, or even just any platform, HR, we're talking about it, the all-in-one is back in style. It's like we went away from we're leaving best of breed phase again. Yeah. Now we're going back to all-in-one, which I think is purely, or not purely, but largely about the data issue that you just talked about, the integration thing. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, is that good? I think that's good, but what are your thoughts on it kind of coming back that way?
Yeah, great point. I mean, the history of enterprise software is the yin and yang of best of breed versus suite, right? And every time there's a stop of innovation, of new things happening, the suites catch up to best of breed. And the suites will never be good as best of breed. But if they get between 60 to 80% of the capability, guess what? In the overall suite, they're more interested, right? So the golden rule in enterprise software so far, maybe agents will change it, right? Who knows? Is in the long run, suites always win. And why is that? Because enterprises don't want to be integrators of different packages.
Exactly.
Right? Because you shoulder the system integrator risk. Yes, you might pay a system integrator to connect a Workday to an SAP Finance, to an Oracle manufacturing or whatever, right? But at some point, that system integrator is gone. And guess these guys are updating their solutions even faster. So you become the system integrator of your own automation landscape, which does not bide well for the cost of it and for the reliability of that and for the overall, back to enterprise acceleration, speed and agility of your enterprise.
Right, exactly.
And this comes back, like I was saying, last year was the year of data lakehouse, right? Somebody who had 3 different ERP packages, right? Name whatever you want.
Yeah.
To an HR core, a different payroll, 2 talent management suite, and then a learning suite. Like, how am I going to get the data together?
Yeah.
Where I'm going to put this, right? So I was thinking last year, not so many have woken up, CEOs, where I was I'm paying for 7 to 9 data lakehouse in the cloud. That's too many. So how many am I going to consolidate? And here comes the suite argument to what you're saying, right? The ERP is going to be one because of most critical automation there.
Yeah,
right? There's what we call data gravity, right? Hopefully we talked about this. I'm in the cloud, so I have my preferred cloud where lots of stuff is. I've invested, I have some data scientists, quants guys who are doing stuff which I shouldn't touch for the CEO and so on. So they can have what they have on their machines or whatever. You should go down to 3, not having the 9+, right? And everybody's like, it's like the oil rush, right? If I have the data, there's some gravity, right?
Yeah. Great point.
Yeah. So, and suites win, right?
Yeah.
So that's what he knows.
Yeah, it's definitely in vogue. And at first it seemed like it was just down market, but now I'm seeing it so much more even up market.
Out of vogue.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, maybe I have the German advantage of growing up in R2 mainframe days, right?
Everybody wanted the best thing.
Dating myself, right? But R2 was that integrated. That was the vision of the SAP founders in the 70s. Originally, we were working at IBM and saying, look, we're integrating the same thing all the time. So why don't we build a larger finance and so on suite for everything integrated with R for real time with some technology because R is fine, right? So suites have been winning since the 70s.
Yeah,
by software.
Agreed. Yeah, it's interesting, and I think that you mentioned that point about integrations. Obviously, I study payroll a lot. I study HCM a ton, benefits, all these sort of things.
Yep.
And one of the things that I find is that a lot of organizations that actually even perceive that they're mature, actually end up, when you start to unpack it, you find gaps in integration. Actually, and it's the Achilles heel for a lot of these enterprises, I think, with their systems, right, of not being able to get the ROI out of it probably because of integrations in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and it's amazing how long you can run with having any decent integration.
Yeah.
So kind of top vendors, right? So SAP, right, under Bill McDermott was tasked to build cloud revenue. So they bought a bunch of cloud properties.
Yeah.
They never integrated them, right? The first thing as a client when he became CEO was from the customers, your stuff is not integrated. Like, where were those customers complaining about SAP? I mean, it's fine to buy something from the outside. It's possible, but you have to integrate it. If you don't have any good integration, so you spent 1 year basically on us listening to her and building integration. Now they don't talk so much about integration anymore, because the interesting new way of integration is that you put everything in the data lake. And integration becomes not a call this API, have the right credentials, latency, what does it cost me? No, it's a SQL statement.
Yeah.
It's a SQL statement. Of course, you have to, and that's the other interesting, because the technology has a bad rap is because big data left it. But big data failed because we all talked about the V's, right? Volume, velocity, veracity, whatever, right? Humans never had a chance to the capability of big data to store a lot of stuff, right? This is why it got a bad rap, right? There's also an open source story we can talk another time. But now with AI, you can make sure that what's in the data lake is clean, cleansed, deduped, normalized, catalogized, and so on. So AI gives you the backup to stay on top of your data for the first time, thank God again. And once you're on top of your data, you can do wonderful things in enterprise.
Right.
Yeah.
Will every business need a data lake at some point?
Oh, yeah.
For all of their data?
I have no doubt. Right? We could debate if it's how it's persisted and which was it and so on, right? But there is an innate synergy at 2 + 2 is 5 of bringing data together because of the historic integration thing, right? We live in the era of infinite computing, right?
Yeah.
So there's 5 layers to it, right? One of the layers is infinite connectivity, right? I mean, in the 90s, university professors at Fraunhofer, even in the lab, we can't do video transmission for 1 meter, right? And now you walk through airports and people are doing FaceTime, all fine, right? So if you take infinite connectivity for granted, right? On top of that comes infinite insights, right? That's what Yahoo originally spearheaded with Hadoop, right? And they had the problem of doing advertisement, right? So Peter Diakos wants to advertise this show, right? In southwest of the US, right? I don't know how many people talk HR, have searched your and my name and so on. But Yahoo or Google or Meta today don't know that either. So they have to go back to the search history and what they know about the users. And the search is constantly evolving. So Hadoop was invented as a way to store everything without knowing what to query.
Gotcha,
right? And the original versions took a minute. But in the minute, if you called me, I want to advertise the Zoho or Zoho or whatever, I mean, in the minute, I would get a fair price for you because I know what people have been using. They're going to do the same thing. Maybe some advertise more. I tell you that too. But I get you a fair price because otherwise you pay too much. You're not going to come back. I pay too little. I lose my stuff, right? So that's what Hadoop and infinite insights. That's the powers data lakes, basically.
Right.
Yeah? On top of that is what we hear all the time now, right? Infinite compute, right? We're in the compute land. I need more compute to build the AI on top of that, right? And then comes infinite machine learning on top of that because we don't care anymore how much machine learning I get here, I get AI free, I get there. So we don't even care how much machine learning we consume. That's what we still have to get to. And ultimately, it's what I called originally deep learning, right? So it looks over your shoulder, it looks what it does, say, hey, I notice you're always booking on this website, let me book the flight for you. And we see some of the things of the MLM with the LM vendors trying to get into e-commerce, right?
Yeah.
So infinite insights. Infinite computing, infinite insights is the data lake level, and companies have to catch up to it.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on just like where HCM is right now, just in terms of its, like we've seen a lot of good use cases. We're starting to see a little bit of orchestration. That's what I'm excited about as a practitioner, seeing things get strung together, seeing things work. Like, for example, I complain a lot about leave administration. Leave administration has historically not entirely resided in the HR system. A lot of times it could be facility systems, it could be building access, other things. Those things don't historically talk to each other and work together. And then it becomes almost a scavenger hunt for the employee. And I would say the same thing is probably true for the practitioner of HR, payroll, any of that. There's a lot of sort of weaving things together themselves manually. But now we're getting this promise of orchestration. But like, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think we are from an HCM perspective, mature-wise? And like, are we on the right path? Or do you think that the HCM community should be taking a different path?
I think orchestration is important.
Yeah.
I think the orchestration kind, the business process modeling, the API hubs and so on, it's good if you have an API hub today, right? As a vendor, as an enterprise, right? It helps you, right? But I think the need of there's a big debate, right? Religious debates in the past, right? Between copying your data, replicating your data, having it in place and ready to go from wherever you want, or federating the data set. Oh, we're going to leave system. We're getting this from the swipe system. Let's see what the swipe system. Oh, shoot, the swipe system is down. So let's see what happened yesterday. Oh, my God, the time attendance system is down as well. Bad luck, right? Whereas if you as a push, you swiped in, boom, it's in the data lake. You look in the data. So my hope is that it's not going to be orchestration so much. It's going to be SQL. By agents, by people doing stuff. So I do have the right to create a data lake for the time and attendance when Pete and Holger showed up or not. I don't care where it came from. I don't care where it's like if they did it on their phone or whatever. It's all pushed in the data lake, and that's how things should be happening, in my view. Because it's the only way to build the agents. Because on the federation too, I mean, like 10 plus years in the heat of the debate of federate versus replicate, right? I mean, if you query the same information 3 times, it's more expensive to query because of network, access, the compute, and so on, the system, right? And not even to mention downtime.
It's like a stack of costs.
Right. And something like in HR, the employee master, you need all the time, right? So why query that all the time out of a system where someone's saying, whoa, we have all this HR, the employee master things, and that's the easy parts.
Right.
Oh, because people build agents, and every time you validate, is this your correct address? Boom. Is this still your bank account? Boom. So somebody can file the agent. So
totally.
So I think the flat data lake, bring all your data, mandate all your systems to go in there is the right strategy.
What are your thoughts on all the HCMs? Honestly, every system now really fighting for that being the front door, right? We talked about this a little bit. Do you think HCM is going to win that, or do you think it's going to be something else?
I think HCM has a shot. And you're absolutely right. There's a fight for the front door.
Right? ServiceNow is going right after it, right?
Absolutely. So, but another golden rule of enterprise software is that if you lose the eyes and the clicks or the keyboard typing of the users, you lose in the long run on the modernization. Because of the innate nature of how our brain works, that we live in the physical world, right? I can't reach you, right? You don't even flinch, right? You know that right away. But if we don't see it, we don't think there's value. Right. So the battle for the front door, who's going to be the entry point for an agent, right? And you don't want to have like a situation like with Copilots where you have 50 Copilots just use Office, right? And you go crazy as a user, right? That's not the solution to have so many different places. More agents to use than apps to use. Something went wrong, right? So you'll see the aggregation. And whoever has the front door has a lot of power. And what is exciting from my perspective is like, not much work happens in the HR application, except for the HR professionals, but for the normal user.
It's quite reactive.
You actually want someone we both know well, like Mike Edmonds said, like, less time I spent in HR, the better it's for the company, right? Because nobody gets paid for doing HR, right? So the key thing is bringing knowledge work, which is a white-collar work, right? I mean, if I'm a factory worker, there's very little I can bring to you when you're hammering or screwing or putting a door on a car, right? What can software bring to you? But if you're a knowledge worker, your email, your calendar, your documents, how do you create them, how you write them, and so on, that is much, much more time that you spend. So you want to bring that together with the little bit of time and attendance, HR. Oh, by the way, I saw your 50 minutes break in your schedule. Shouldn't you do the certification, which you always wanted for your skilling? Perfect, right? That could actually work, right? How many skilling demos and like train this thing have you seen, right? Bring this together is, I think, the critical thing. So it's interesting what we'll see the closest attempt in the industry right now is what we see at Workday, right? Thanks to the Sana acquisition, right? And if you talk to Workday, I mean, Sana, yes, is a learning solution, but the value is really their access, their open access to go to every other things, right? Other people have tried that, right? We were in Prague last week with ADP, right? ADP in the original Lithion, now next-gen HCM, but you can access to all, to Drive, to OneDrive, to Office, to your email, and so on. Right? The vision was there. Let's see how it implements. But because the problem is, again, siloed information. And what I'm worried a little bit about on the HCM vendors, nothing happens in the real world if it happens HCM, right? You want payroll, nobody gets paid. You put your time and attendance in, people don't show up on shift, right? So HCM needs the rest of the enterprise value creation to see, yes, Pete and Holger did a good podcast. We saw it on the views, not just because it clocked in, clocked out at the podcast here in Austin, right? So that's connection is really important, which again is the wider suite integration. And that's where people do the people analytics, integrate data here and so on. That data exists in these systems of record which do the value creation of the enterprise, and you have to insert the HCM piece there.
Absolutely.
People piece there.
So look, we talked about this offline, and I've thought about this for a long time, but I really think that there is something to be said for edge computing to benefit payroll time, and maybe even multiple use cases that I could apply it to HR. But what are your thoughts on that? First, maybe you could explain. You're much more technically driven than I am, or educated, I would say. What is edge computing, and what are your thoughts on that to be able to maybe make an impact on HR and payroll?
Yeah, edge computing is interesting technology. So you do things at the edge, wherever the edge is, right? If the edge is a little sensor, if the edge is a smartphone. By the way, I'm totally ready, right? So I have like 3 smartphones with me.
At your edge stack.
Because of the limitations of the edge, right?
Yes.
I don't have network on this one, but I have network on this one. I pay through the whole for roaming on this one.
Oh my goodness.
This one is out of battery.
Yeah.
This one is not out of battery. So that's the limitations of the edge, right?
Yeah.
And there's charm in the edge, but to do any automation there, first of all, the security thing, right? We know about Chinese or whatever security cameras which can get hacked and whatever. So they know who's coming to your door without you knowing it, or they build a small Wi-Fi network and so on. So the security issue. And then there's a software update issue. But to a certain point, what your vision is happening, right? Because you see how many, like the clock is always the critical factor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people say, look, I wasn't late. There was 20 people in front of me. One clock was broken. So
right.
I was late. You didn't give us enough clock capacity.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how long it takes companies to change to smartphones to clock in, clock out, to do geofencing, which you can do since 15 plus years or something, right? So it shows how slow the adoption is. But edge computing has a charm. Edge computing has a massive software overload when you want to really push business applications there.
Yeah.
And all the software vendors are lucky to a certain point that there's the app economy. Forget about the enterprise for a second.
Right.
But the app economy is enabling the update of your enterprise software because it's the 1st of March and your deduction times or payroll break times or your labor union things are there. And it uses that massive normal app economy upgrade cycle to update your 10% or so, which are business apps on your phone. Right. So it just comes for free.
Yeah.
But if that wouldn't be there, and I remember I was building mobile apps in the 90s, updating your mobile apps was a nightmare. Updating your laptops, right? Having users who like salespeople or CRM wasn't part like which way do I put the DVD in? Or the disk in? Or my disk is broken, and then they're on different versions, send them the wrong data. All nightmare. So the edge is totally working as the smartphone platform, right? Again, infinite connectivity. Yeah. Right? Everybody's connected.
Yeah.
And you can push
we're
stuff
all
to
walking
it.
around with a computer in our pockets, right? And we are, that's where so much
better than the computer we first had, right? So this thing is better than the computer we had 5 years ago, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I talk to leaders, HR leaders all the time, and they'll say, like, look, the only way we can get it, especially with heavy frontline, the only way we can get employees to engage with technology is if they can pick up a shift, look at their paycheck, or make money, basically, right? Whatever, EWA, whatever it is. Yep. But the point is like, I just think that there's so much, we're walking around with the computers at the edge. We are the source of the data and the activity and the actions.
Right.
Why can't it be pushed in? And then you think about real-time payments and the ability to move money instantly, calculate payroll instantly, move money instantly. It's all kind of lining up there. I just wonder if the plumbing is there and if it's worth actually investing in something like that as an HR tech firm. I don't know. Maybe it's an Oracle SAP kind of a big tech thing.
Right. I mean, the interesting thing is I would expect theoretically, because PCs are not so prevalent, right?
Yeah.
Out of Latin America, Africa especially, right? Everybody has a smartphone.
Yeah.
Right? Some parts in Asia, that there would be HR vendors which are mobile only, right? And the HR professional, which is really the only one, or maybe the executive who wants to have a bigger screen and has a PC and so on, they would just display Cast or whatever Apple's technology is, right? To display what's still on your phone, right? You connect your phone, and everything is running there. Yeah. So I think there'll be a solution for doing this, right? And to a certain point, payments is where it starts, right? I mean, we're at Zoho, like UPI. What a massive innovation! People being underbanked, now being banked with just showing barcodes, paying for the barcode, and with the pitch, right, which the credit cards have when we come up here, you see them on the terminal, right? Your NFC beeps, super safe, right? But you don't really know what you really got paid, right? So you have to wait for the pop-up that you really paid the right amount or not the right amount. And with UPI, you get the display, and then you hit on your phone, right? You're in control what you're going to do. And then, of course, the transaction cost, right? The transaction is the micro sense, right? The credit card transaction is in the significant sense, right? So very, very interesting. Yeah. Something on the payment side. But mobile-only HR vendors for everything. Right? Yeah. Because people who need a computer on the HR side,
so much is happening on apps, right? I mean, MyADP and all of them, right? Workday, UKG, they all have the apps.
Always, mobile apps are important,
Yeah.
but they're always afterthoughts. First, we build the web app, right? And then be doing a mobile app, problems, and so I don't care how it's going to be built, right? But being a mobile only, a smartphone platform only HR vendor, if you heard here first, if you want to invest in it, I think there's some charm to it, especially for the you say the unbanked, right? There's the under HCM part of the world, right?
Yeah, totally. So what are your thoughts too? I might kind of pivot here. I know we've maybe run out of time, but I want to talk a little bit about this. One of the things that we see in the news more now is just this idea that IT and HR are going to get closer together. And I do think that is true from the perspective of HR is going to have to get increasingly literate with technology and AI more than they've ever been in history. Right. And there's a literacy gap right now. Right. For sure, we all have one. We're all learning. But what happens as that develops? Like, does IT, certainly they need to be much more involved in where and how the data is being used and the governance of all of that and the security of the systems. But does HR and IT get together more in the future? Do you think that happens?
I think everybody will have to get more of a technologist.
Yeah.
The irony of HR is that because HR had IT, the infamous HRIT.
HRIS.
HRIS, HRIT, right? Kept the HR person saying, oh, this is technology, let me talk to my HRIT person. Kind of like institutionalizing the HRIT function, which largely hasn't helped HR people to stay on top of technology like their peers in manufacturing, in sales, in marketing, in finance, right? I mean, that's funny, right? Because ERP or enterprise automation started in finance, right? And it was rocket science. You had to write your own custom software. There was no standard software and so on, right? There must have been, IT was for finance, right? And then you added payroll, right? And I don't know when it happened that someone said, okay, the HR people don't know this so well. We give them HRIS, HRIT person there. And that became
somebody who can speak to IT.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't want to deal with HR people. Like, you get to visualize IT.
Yeah.
And that has held them back because on the flip side, do you ever heard of manufacturing IT?
I know.
CRM IT? No, it does not exist, right? So everybody else.
We're one of the few departments that seems to need their own specialized systems. Everybody else can use the ERP. HR always had to have their own special system.
CRM guys would argue with this, right?
Yeah.
The manufacturing guys would have their own system. So everybody wants their own systems, but everybody is literate, right? And the downside, and I love HR people, don't understand me, is that with not knowing technology, there comes this uncertainty and not readiness to take risks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So which does not help, right? And then comes the unfortunate thing on top of that of course compliance is important. And compliance is always the escape corner for the HR professional and said, let's think about compliance first. Right? Or the enterprise wants to do something innovative, right? Did you talk to the HR person? So HR has to become technology literate and has to come out of the compliance corner.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk to you one more time, or come back to AI a little bit more. I want to ask you about one of the things I get asked a ton by buyers, by vendors, is just what's going to happen with SaaS pricing. What should we be doing with our AI pricing? Should it be free? Should it be an add-on? We've got Workday doing flex credits. I think there's some talks of maybe we're going to have some volume-based usage sort of stuff coming because, look, if seats presumably go down, heads go down, there's not going to be as much SaaS licensing. What are your thoughts on that? Like, where do you think that's heading? Yeah, more agents, right?
So in the long run, I think it has to be, like we always say, it's utility computing, right? I mean, if you think about utilities, water, power, and so on, right? They're all more or less cost plus.
Yeah.
Right? So there's the electricity commission every state, right? Which looks like how much will they pay, and then there's some skewing, you want them to do green stuff and so on. But basically, you know what it costs. You don't want these guys to go out of business, right? And there's a value that they provide, and they get a premium. And I think the same thing is where cloud utility computing is going to go. So the negotiation is going to be, I know that you're running us on AWS. I can ask AWS how much it costs, right? Or I ask customer myself. Now it comes to the value you create on top of that, right? And it's going to be a very hard conversation, right? Because how much did you build last year? Did the value for me go up or down, right? So it has to be negotiated. So the software vendors don't necessarily want to do this. But the liability of the software vendor to pay enough per seat, right? The classic per seat pricing. We're going to put so much buffer on there. A few people use more.
There's always some contingency.
At the end, we come. But that's scary business in the era of AI, where I don't know how many agents are you going to build. And this is why we see all this innovation around pricing for agents, right? And Salesforce, who is the first with Agentforce originally, right? The $2 we mentioned it before, is changing it the second time now. So it's hard to get right, and it's a big learning process, which comes back to the point which we were saying earlier. I need to think about when I consume IT, how is it incremental for my business? Right. Yeah, it might be legally mandatory, necessary, so I have to do it anyway. It's some cost and so on. Right? I still want to do this cheap. But if I do something which changes the way I operate, which is the exciting time with agents and AI right now, is incremental, accretive to my business.
Yeah.
And that step function to scale it up, to scale it down, we take off that day, we do a holiday, everybody go home early, the servers are not running, right?
Yeah.
So God forbid we have another pandemic, right? So the scaling up and down, right? That's where the first time I got so many calls from boards I presented to in the 2010 numbers and so on about elasticity in cloud and glazed eyes and so on.
Yeah.
What? You did this presentation 8 years ago. I didn't get it. Now the pandemic. I looked at the cost of our delivery fleet. They were not driving. It was terrible. Right? The offices weren't driving. And is this what the guy was saying? I didn't explain it right. That's the elasticity of your IT cost. Yeah, that's exactly right. We need to move to the cloud. And AI is going to be a massive, massive push to move to the cloud, to have this ramp up and down. But it needs the philosophy change, how to approach IT. Not saying, oh yeah, I paid $300 a year for my office license.
Right.
Yeah, you see in the office licensing how it's changing, right? How much all you can eat, again, a lump sum payment for getting all the co-pilots you want, right? Right or wrong, right? So somebody's overpaying, someone's underpaying. Ultimately, you should pay for what you use.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of round this out, like any advice to like HR leaders out there? We have a lot of HR executives that listen, that maybe are I don't want to say paralyzed, but maybe they're sort of slow getting out of the gate here. Right. What would be your advice to those leaders to get their organization moving forward and to lead? Because I think HR and payroll, especially, there's going to be a much bigger trust factor for them to have to digest, I guess I would say, with AI. Yeah. But they're also, in a lot of ways, I think HR is really going to have to lead the organization because they're going to have to help reskill the organization.
Right. So because people, in most companies, people are the biggest cost. Yeah. Right? 80% plus. People are the business asset. We all talk about how hard to hire someone new, to find someone new, aging dynamics and so on. You want to take your people right. And who is the people advocate?
Yeah.
Right? It should be the chief people. We don't call them off like the chief people officer.
Yeah.
Right? And then back to what is near and dear to our heart, right? Most people work to live, right? So they want to get their paycheck, right?
Absolutely.
So innovate on paychecks. But my advice it's great we have a technology discussion. Don't be afraid as an HR person. Get inserted into the data conversation. Data conversation beyond HR. The data conversation where the value of your enterprise is being created in sales, in manufacturing, in services, in billing, and see what it means, what are the skills needed, what the reskilling is needed for the conversation. And the nice thing is, right, the problem of the data lakes is, right, how do we secure the data lake, right? Who has access to what data, right? The default way how to have access to something in an enterprise is the reporting hierarchy.
Yeah.
If you're my boss and you tell me, Holger, you fly to Austin, to Zoho, well, I don't have to worry about the expenses. Right? I mean, I have to stay compliant, right? But you told me to go, right? So you had this in the back of your head. It's going to cost me something to go there.
Right.
So, and who has the reporting hierarchy? It's in the HR core system.
Exactly.
So talk to your IT people and say, look, in the data class, we should push the HR reporting hierarchy in there. So you can secure every object, right? So this comes from this department, that's the head, that's the people who are in there, they have access to that, right? All of a sudden, HR core, it's kind of like this system of record in the background, which we really use, right?
Yeah.
It becomes a strategic system of access, right? Because what are the other hierarchies in the enterprise, right? We have a cost center hierarchy, right? As an HR person, I don't want to have a cost center hierarchy because everybody knows cost centers are never reflecting the reality, right? Yeah. We have a product hierarchy, which the R&D guys like, okay, fine. We have a sales hierarchy. That only is how much of your company, right? The people reporting hierarchy, that's the conversation how an HR person should get themselves into talking about the data lake.
Yeah.
And how you secure the data lake. And how you make sure that I don't run too many agents and I have a budget that comes from you, how many agents I can run. And when I run out of it, you get the approval or whatever, right? So that's what my recommendation is. Get in touch with technology. The nice thing is AI has been consumerized, right? So you can do so many more things here. So what could you do in HR with that, right?
Yeah.
The good news is it's so hard for people to find out things, right? The other number one thing to do is if your employee handbook is not in some kind of document AI, you've been, I don't know, living under a rock or something, right? And there's nothing to worry about hallucinations, right? You just have your PDF and you make it a conversational experience, right? Everybody should have that. You can do it yourself. You have an instant win in your company, right? And your employees will like it, right? Especially the younger generations who prefer to text and talking in person and so on. Talk to or whatever. To call it chatbot doesn't matter, right? Agent or not. But your employee handbook, right? All your employee directives and so on are super safe to do with any of them because you only feed your documents, right? So searching in the document again, you ask those questions, right? And have an agent for that. So it's an easy way to get your feet wet and get started in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get in the game. I think you got to get started. You got to start walking down that path, and it starts right now. So it's getting late.
Like last week, we heard can't name the company, right? But on stage said they built 2 agents. Yeah, and I spoke to the head of Payroll. It actually wanting 110 agents.
That's amazing.
Got a third-party agentic automation tool, and to start building by themselves.
Yeah. So I think and we saw that this week, right? Microservices is such a thing now for you to be able to customize, if you will. Yeah. It's easier than ever. You don't need to go to IT to build a report and do things. So I love that. Well, listen, this has been fantastic advice, man, and such great insight. I want to do this every year. We need to have like an every year Holger check-in.
We do repeat. Yeah.
But I want to wrap this up with a fun one. Who wins the World Cup? Any predictions?
It's so hard to say. Like I realized, and I'm transnational, right? I don't care. I have 3 teams, right? I'm from Germany. I grew up in Italy. I have the US, right? So also in the race, theoretically. And I realized only watching Soccer World Cup since forever, in 2014 when Germany won, you only win if other people don't show up. So it's not so much who's the strongest, but who's not going to show up, right?
Yeah.
So I can say Italy is maybe not even qualifying.
Yeah.
So they won't even show up, right? The World Cup about Italy, right? It's happened so the second time. Germany not playing really well. Right?
Yeah.
The US, I mean, the best player lucky plays for my team.
Yeah.
Christian Pulisic, he's injured. He's not playing well. He had stellar September. He was player of the match in Serie A. He was unstoppable. He's injured since October on, off. He played 15 minutes yesterday. Doesn't have the touch anymore. And if your best player doesn't play well, maybe somebody else is stepping up, right, for the US. I think there's an exciting player. You heard here first. Played against my team yesterday, Nico Paz, Argentinian, 20-year-old, fantastic player. I mean, if Messi is in decent shape to play the World Cup, has a good alternative with this guy.
Okay, I love it.
I think Argentina has a chance. It's very hard to get.
Yeah, they won the last one. Am I right?
Yeah, it's very hard
with Messi. Yes.
Yeah, and the rule is that usually the World Cup winner doesn't make it out of the group phase. 7 or 8 of the last World Cups, except for one, everybody was out in the group phase, right?
Yeah.
Germany was out in the group phase in 2018, right?
Yeah.
So
well, my team didn't even make it. So Greece didn't make it this year, but maybe next time. But look, where can everyone connect to you? I'll make sure to share the links. Where do you like folks to get in touch?
To reach me? The easiest way is put my Twitter handle on there. Use that, or X handle or whatever, right? That's my priority inbox, right? I look at my X direct message before anything else, but LinkedIn takes the longest. Yeah. Email.
Absolutely.
Put my email out there. Get too much spam anyway. So.
No, I love it, man. We'll be sure to share that. Thank you so much, man, for coming on. And thanks to everyone for sticking and staying with us. As always, we'll be back with more content and more great guests like Holger Mueller.